Good morning, folks. It is Monday morning, on my way into class. First class of the week. I've got medical microbiology at the moment. Well, not at the moment, in like 20 minutes. so yeah, I'm in college today until 4 o'clock. Some other things I've got today are physiology exam. So we've got kind of continuous exams throughout the year in physiology. So I got one of those at 12:30, and then from 2 to 4 we're in the cadaver lab. So a cadaver is a dead body, in summary. But yeah, so we're there learning anatomy with the cadavers from 2 to 4, so that's interesting. And then I'm going to stay in the library from 4 until 8, and then from 8 to 10 I've got what's called Sim Wars training. So Sim Wars is a simulation based competition as part of the Emergency Care Society. Essentially what you're doing is medical simulations of emergency situations. So I can't give you all of the details of everything it'll entail because it hasn't really got going yet, but I did get a place on one of the teams, so I'm pretty happy about that because it should be a really valuable learning experience, learning a lot of the more practical clinical stuff that we won't get to learn in the classroom during our time in the 4 years of medical school. So yeah, that's going to be really valuable, and I'm looking forward to it. But obviously, long day, so I'm going to get stuck in and catch up with you guys later. Sim Wars done, good fun, exciting stuff. Currently 11 p.m, just got the bus back home, and now I'm just about to head in home. So 11 p.m, quite late. Normally I would be in bed by this time, but it is Monday, which means that I've also got lots of triage work to do, and this is my busiest day of the week. It's when I do most of my client check-ins, so I can't sleep on those. So the plan is to go in and finish off my client check-ins now, and I'm not sure how long that will take, but you know, such is life. It's the last one of the evening. Thank you. Tuesday, 2:18. Well, lads, we had some bike malfunctions this morning. I was thinking about getting the bus, and then I realised I was late for the bus. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna race this motherfucker. Currently in the lead by 200 metres, 5.5 kilometres in, 10 kilo backpack on my back, and look at that bus back there, little bitch. Traffic light's currently not in my favour. It's the second bus back there, not the first one. See that fella? Let's get after it. Right, made it to the city centre. He hasn't made it across the bridge yet. He's gonna have to collect some folks here before he gets to UCC. I think we're gonna make it, fam. Update, we're at the main gate to UCC. No sign of him currently, but it's a long road to the Western Gateway. Let's finish it off strong, boys. Yes, we made it. Time for a physiology tutorial, which I'm late for, but at least I won this round of Gary versus Bus Eireann. Too easy. Come on, push. Excuse me. What I would do is I'd place those easier sessions prior to sleep. Like, for example, lower intensity exercise is not likely to be as
stimulatory, it's not going to excite you as much. So like that's probably a better option prior to sleep than going and doing like really hard intervals where your recovery time after is going to be like harder. And like you can see that sort of stuff happening. If you do a training session and you look at your heart rate recovery after the session, or you look at your heart rate variability or whatever, you'll see that you were very much still in a stimulated state for hours after. And that's going to vary depending on the intensity of that exercise. So if you do have that freedom within your program, that would be one example of where you could implement your lighter sessions prior to sleep. The other thing when it comes to exercise and sleep is that there is this sort of bi-directional pathway going on, in that you're going to sleep better if you exercise. As in, like that I guess that's our starting assumption on this podcast is always that, like, obviously all of you train. Like, why would you not train? So if you happen to be listening to this podcast and you don't actually train, you don't exercise, start. All right, like, full stop. Like I don't care if it has to be before bed. I'd rather you were doing it before bed than not doing it at all. So if you do begin to exercise, that's likely to improve your ability to get to sleep, your quality of your sleep, etc. So that's that direction. So exercise, improve sleep. In the other direction, the better you sleep and the longer you sleep for, the more effective your exercise is going to be. And this is a really important thing to recognize, that if you are just sleeping more and you don't change your program, you're probably going to be stronger. You're probably going to build more muscle. You're going to have better endurance. You're going to have more energy going to your workouts. You're going to recover better. All of the things that you actually want from your training. So that's one of the things I always say to my clients when they're like, all right, not exactly happy with my results, what can we do? What can we change with programming? And if I look at their sleep and I'm like, all right, you're sleeping 6 hours per night. I don't think there's a single program change that I could possibly make that would make more of a difference than us getting that up to 7 to 9 hours. Like, that's going to be a far more significant difference. And like to be fair to people, to play devil's advocate, we don't have long-term research showing what sort of difference this actually makes from a muscle building perspective. We have some acute short-term studies, some mechanistic stuff where you can see that, right, this probably affects some of the hypertrophic signaling. It probably affects your strength within a workout. We've got evidence to show that your strength across multiple sets, like the amount of reps you can do, is going to be reduced if you're sleep deprived. Your vigor going into the workout, your endurance, so it does definitely have effects. But can we say that it's going to be 5 kilos of muscle over 5 years? We don't know. But it's because there's such benefits across the spectrum, you'd be silly to not try and get those benefits, because that's one that we didn't really touch on, all of the whys. But as a quick overview, I just touched on all those things as it relates to training. It's going to improve your performance, it's going to improve your recovery, likely to improve your adaptations. But then as you go further down the line, and let's say you're trying to elicit body composition changes, if your goal is fat loss, then sleep affects basically everything you would want to possibly affect to put you in favor of losing more body fat. As in, it helps you to regulate your appetite. If you're sleep deprived, one of the things that we see is that people have a drive to eat more. They're poorer at regulating their appetite, but not just that. They specifically are eating more of those kind of hyper-palatable, quote-unquote, junk foods. So people crave more of those foods, and everyone has experienced that. So if you've got that going on for you, then clearly losing body fat is going to be much more difficult. There's also some short-term research showing that when people do actually lose weight, they lose more muscle and less fat for the same calorie deficit. So again, you have to consider what is the composition of the weight that you're actually losing. However, again, playing devil's advocate, we don't have long-term research showing how relevant that is to people who are already weight training. And also the other thing with sleep studies, it can become there is some hyperbole where people say that sleep is everything, and basically you're wasting your time training if you're not sleeping enough, whereas a lot of the studies are in people who are totally sleep deprived or deprived to maybe 4 hours of sleep per night. So what I don't want people to take away from this is that, oh, I missed an hour of sleep last night, better not train, or my fat loss efforts are out the window. That's not the case, but it's still something that's worth improving. So yeah, obviously all the health and well-being stuff, people are generally aware of. If you're sleep deprived, you're probably going to have higher risk of cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and dementia as you age. You're going to have poorer memory and retention, your poorer ability to learn, to focus. So like if you're a student or you're anyone who has a career that you care about, sleeping is a good idea. I'm very good, man. Yeah, I've been putting off getting this podcast done for probably half a year by now, so I'm glad we eventually got around to it. Oh Jesus, no, not yet. Give me about 4 years, and then you can bring out the doctor. Yeah, but we're not that pretentious here in Ireland. You know, in the US, the like physios like to call themselves doctors, like doctor of physical therapy. But no, in Ireland we don't do that. In Ireland, a physiotherapist is a physiotherapist, and like the only real doctors are, you know, medical doctors and people who obviously have PhDs. So it's a bit different in Ireland. So same qualification, but we don't call ourselves doctors. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I just started medicine there 5 weeks ago. So enjoying that so far. All good. No, it's actually 5 years here normally. So there's DEM and there's GEM. So DEM is direct entry medicine. So that would be if you do it after secondary school. So it's 5 years then. Whereas if you already have a degree, you do graduate entry medicine, and that's a bit more fast tracked, a bit more cramped together. So that's a 4-year course, and that's the one I'm doing. Yeah. So my experience with physiotherapy education had a lot of pros and a lot of cons. So I'll start with the positive stuff. Some of the positive stuff was that I was very fortunate to have, at least for a very brief period of time, a number of lecturers who really did influence the thought process that I actually developed over time. There was two people in particular, Dr. Kieran O'Sullivan and Dr. Mary O'Keefe. So both of those individuals would be very well known within the world of pain, and particularly low back pain. I think both have done very important work there, and they did a lot to foster a mindset in me of being very critical about the things that we hear about pain, about a lot of the common narratives related to things like posture and, you know, muscle imbalances, and, you know, all those sorts of things that you hear people talk about as being causal when it comes to pain, like, you know, certain muscles being switched off and all that sort of stuff. And they really were the ones that put me onto thinking much deeper about pain, about some of the psychosocial factors, about the neurobiology of pain and all that sort of stuff. So I did have a very positive experience from that perspective. The other very positive thing about physiotherapy education is that you get 1,000 hours of hands-on practical experience. I mean hands-on figuratively, like not literally. A lot of it is hands-off. But what I mean with that is that, you know, you have the opportunity to work in a hospital environment, in a more outpatient clinical environment, in, you know, the community. So I had a lot of really, really valuable learning experiences that you couldn't get from the classroom, and that has definitely shaped me as a person, even as a trainer. It helps me work better with my clients online and communicate better, a lot of the soft skills. So lots of positive experiences. In terms of some of the more negative experiences or things that I feel were somewhat insufficient, one of my biggest critiques of physiotherapy education would be probably firstly the lack of emphasis on learning deeper, like about pain itself. As I said, I was very fortunate to have a number of lecturers who kind of put me on that path, but I think like would be one of the deficits of physiotherapy education in general, is that most of the research would support the idea that physiotherapy students tend to have a relatively poor understanding of some of the things they should know about pain. And that was actually part of my final year project. So we did a lot of reading in that area, and there's definitely room for improvement. The other thing would be the approach to education around exercise. Like, one of the things that physiotherapists will say or claim is that, you know, that we're the clinical exercise specialists, you know, that we're the ones that are really in control of prescribing exercise within the context of health and disease. But there's a lot of talk but very little action given to proper education around exercise. One example would be the removal of biomechanics and the reduction of exercise physiology education within the curriculum in the university that I studied in. So I found that interesting because, like, personally, I find biomechanics to be an absolutely core subject for anyone who's trying to understand exercise, even if it's just qualitative mechanics, exercise mechanics. I think it's important. I think you also have to understand the physiology of exercise quite well, and then you also have to understand the practice of exercise. And one of the things that is apparent is that lots of physios don't actually train themselves. Lots of people don't know basic strength and conditioning principles, and I think without that foundation, it's very difficult to consider yourself to be an exercise specialist. So yeah, in summary, I got a lot out of my physiotherapy education. I think there's a lot of positives to the course that I did and to a lot of courses. I think it lays a good foundation, especially in terms of developing a lot of the soft skills in practice. But I do think there's room for improvement for sure. Yes, I would agree with you that, like, fundamentally the purpose of university should be to build people who are able to think, who are able to read, to write, to ask good questions, to differentiate between, like, scientific and pseudoscientific claims. And I think that's a transferable skill beyond just the sciences, you know, and to identify, you know, when a claim is bullshit, to understand the reasoning process that goes into making a decision. All those sorts of soft skills are really what are transferable in all areas of life, and hence I agree with you that they should be a core focus in university. Yeah, like a good example of that would be at the last Olympics, Michael Phelps was, you know, made all the frontline headlines because he essentially had been getting a lot of cupping. So he had lots of cupping marks going into his swimming races, and obviously, like, that's a big win for anyone who is practicing using cupping, because, like, clearly swimming is a sport where that's going to be very visible and millions and millions of people are going to be watching that. But to assume that because a high level athlete does something that is inherently beneficial, that is a ridiculous assumption. And, like, you should really be seeking to take your reasoning process beyond that point, because athletes do a lot of things, you know. And that's the thing with athletes, is that if you take someone who's trying to get every last 0.0001% out of their performance, then once something is not directly harmful, they're essentially going to throw everything at themselves to potentially lead to a performance improvement, like, even with the knowledge that some of it mightn't, you know, work very well, you know. So they're going to use every recovery modality. They're going to use every little nutrition hack they can. They're going to use, you know, foam rolling. They're going to do cupping. They're going to have recovery pants on. They're going to wear compression garments. They're going to do everything they possibly can to eke out every last 0.001%. And they're not seeking scientific evidence to prove that a lot of the time. Like, often what they're being suggested, like, a coach will suggest it, and the coach mightn't have necessarily read the evidence, and then they're like, all right, would you have the time to be able to implement this intervention? And if the person has the time to implement that intervention and there's no significant risk associated with it, then there's either some sort of benefit or it's neutral. So even in that context, if Michael Phelps happened to get cupping and he got some placebo benefit out of it, for example, if it was suggested to him that he was going to get a performance benefit.
Hey, what's happening, family? The reason I'm standing here like this in my hoodie, basically I want to round out this video because I've got a good few clips in this video, but most of the stuff that I did record is from, like, at least 2 weeks ago. So I just wanted to round this video out with this clip to have a little bit of an outro, show you a couple of things. Firstly, this is the fourth, or maybe third or fourth glass or cup that I've broken since me and Laura moved into our place here. So yeah, I'm a clumsy motherfucker like that. Anyone that knows me can confirm. But yeah, just rounding out this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Update on where we are this week, and then I'll start vlogging again for the week ahead. It's currently Wednesday. October 23rd, I believe. I've got BLS training today, so basic life support, CPR, etc. So we've got that in the college today. We don't have any formal classes other than that, so I just have that from like 9 to 2 or 9 to 3, and then I've got training in the Assert Center in UCC. That's like a medical simulation room. So like you get like live updates on the patient's like vital signs. The patient actually can talk, I think, and it can definitely like move its eyelids and stuff. So it's a more interactive version of medical simulation than just the actual model, you know, the dummies themselves. I think at the start of this video, it would have been, I was telling you about Sim Wars and the Emergency Medicine Society. So that's who I'm doing that with. As I was saying, you know, the Emergency Care Society in UCC, they run a thing called Sim Wars, and I'm on one of the teams, and basically we are doing medical simulations, and it's all totally new for me. And there's one other girl in my group who's a first year as well, but some of the others in our team are actually like experienced because they've done it for a couple of years. So learning loads every day, and that is really, really helpful. So looking forward to going to a start this evening, then I'll get home tonight and go for a run. Because I was at jiu-jitsu last night, run tonight. I did some lifting yesterday morning. I have to be in college early today, so I didn't get any training in this morning, just some work, and then I'll walk. I'll do a bit of walking, and I'll make sure to get in like 15 to 20k steps today. Stay nice and active, easy work. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. I will have more content of me chatting and stuff in the next video, because I know this video was a bit like all over the place. I think I can't even remember what I recorded because it was 2 weeks ago, but there you go. I'll chat to you in the next one, guys. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. Some of you actually may have tried to reach out on Instagram, because some people have even like found ways to message me elsewhere, or even message my girlfriend and stuff, because I disabled my Instagram account. So some of you might be like, where's your Instagram, bro? I just disabled it. You can like you enable it at any point in time that you want, but like I'd rather just spend my time doing more effective things than being on Instagram. So for the moment it's disabled. So yeah, just follow Triage, watch the videos, listen to the podcast, read the articles, etc. You don't need to be seeing my stories really. Like, I mean, we could just produce any valuable content elsewhere. So yeah, that's the reasoning. If you happen to spot that, I would rather use my time more effectively on studying, on writing, on exercising, etc., and just ignore the fact that Instagram even exists. But anyway, there we go. That's the end of this video, guys. Catch you in the next one. We can talk more about social media another time. I feel like that's kind of like one of those things where you talk about it to try and sound virtuous, because you're so woke, bro, you know, that you've transcended the social media. So like, anyway, have a good day. And remember that it is, in fact, too easy. And of course, be happy.